So I'm making this video. I've been playing this for a bit, but I ain't the best at it. But I have pretty good CC, so I guess that's a good thing. So my video today is going to be about chapter, I believe it's 12, where you face Esteros, and I'm gonna give tips. Although I've beaten it, I know some tips that should be able to help you pretty good if you're struggling. Also, I'll help on the go through boss, because that was actually kind of hard if you didn't know what you were doing. So here we go. So as you can see, I don't have any story modes done, and if you go look at my chapters, I have pretty much everything done. And then this is my team CC. I know it's not the best, but I try. But here's my team CC if I were to set my team. I sometimes like to use Esteros in the front, but that's only for PvP. I'm still working on Esteros's gear. I have full UR gear on my Escanor. Yeah, go through Esterosa, and if I can find a king, there we go. So I have pretty good gear on all of them. So here's the main thing. So we are going to look at the chapter 12. So this is hard because you kind of need to have someone that does ult drain, and recovery is disabled, but if you use like a person that removes debuffs and heals, that'd be a good. Lilia, you could use her, but you need to have level 2 heals like all the time. You can use King's level 1. So the only things that would really require patience is the love versus pride, and then the returning people and sacrifices. Everything else you should be able to do if you have good characters. So the only thing about Esterosa that is extremely hard is if you don't hurt him within a turn, he gains more than 50. He gains either 50 or more than 50% of his HP. So if you got him down to 50%, and let's say he did his counter ultimate or didn't take any damage from your turn, he's gonna heal up everything. So you're gonna have to do. Yeah, you're gonna have to make sure to still ult drain. You have to make sure you ult drain, and you have to make sure you can heal. If not tank with your characters that you already have, you need to make sure you have a healer then. So you have to choose between two things. So for this stage, what I'd recommend is, I've never used it, but YouTubers and other YouTubers other than me are saying that you should use Green Darieri, Green Merlin. Green Escanor is required. I suggest you try and level up your Escanor and not use the stories Escanor, because his damage kind of drops off with debuffs, so you want to have an Escanor that's mainly focused on attack. I think there's a green stage and blue stage, but blue stage is the hardest, because he steals your ult. That's why he's the hardest. He steals your ult, and he does a lot of damage with his skills. So that's the hardest. And then returning people and sacrifice, noble sacrifice. So bottom line is you have to use Gale Thunder, Gustav, and Hauser. But I suggest you put red Gotha in the back or in the front, depending on whatever. You have to also hope you have very good like RNG luck, because you need to keep attack sealing them and ranking up your go through so you can attack seal. I suggest using red Gale Thunder, because he taunts and he takes reduced damage, and then Hauser can do area damage. But you'd mostly want to aim for Gother's ult and his attack seal. So what you'd want to do with Gother's ult is save your ult until they're ready to ult, then you drain them. Like, don't use it too early. You do not want to do that, because then Also, if you got your opponents low, try and tank the ultimate, because the next phase will be even harder. So what you'd have to do in the next phase is not everybody on that enemy team seals your ult. You have to take out the green leader, which will be the strongest, and he will do a lot of damage to blue units. So if you have blue units, do not have him on the last phase, because they will get one-shotted. If not one-shotted, two-shotted, but mostly one-shotted within that turn, because CPUs kind of target the characters you don't want them to target, so you have to play extremely careful. For me, I did use quite a lot of gems. Well, not a lot. I probably used like, I don't know, 16, 12. So I used 3 gems and then the 6 gems, and then I got through it. But if you're beginning the game, you should actually be leveling Hauser, because his area damage is actually really good. And then later on, you can start grinding more diamonds to get like better characters for, like, let's say if you don't have an already well set team, because I don't have materials for him, and neither do I have materials for Hendrickson. I already have him. He's like right here. He's already leveled up at the bottom. He's not UR, but I try to level everybody up so I can get that, like, you know, extra little CC. So King and Hendrickson, if you get Lilia as well, they are a phenomenal combo unit. Because what King's ability does, if you guys already probably don't know this, so what King does is that if enemies have 2 or more effects of poison, bleed, shock, and corrosion, which both Lilia and Hendrickson can provide. So Demon Hendrickson provides bleed and shock, and Lilia provides corrosion, and then King provides poison with his debuff card right here. Poisons for 3 turns, and then this releases it could release like 80% to 100 and to 130. So what that means is, let's say you had poison, bleed, shock on an opponent, and let's say it did like, let's say 20k per turn, 20k damage to that opponent per turn. King would do his 180% plus that 20k, so then it'll deal even more damage than what it's originally supposed to deal. So then that way, if you use these Hendrickson and Lilia, if you already have them and you're like willing to put materials into them, they will destroy any opponent. Boss, I'm not so sure, because the bosses that remove debuffs, I don't think you should use them. For, I guess, bosses, you'd probably have to use just use like good characters that you know you're comfortable with and you know that are good. Because honestly, green counter melee could be used perfectly good if you can manage to get his counter off right when he's low HP. So let's say you put your counter up, and if you put your counter up and you didn't take it, if you took like 1,000, your counter won't do as much even on a level 1. So if you know you're gonna survive it but with low HP, put that counter up. You can do to 1,000,000 with the level 3 counter. Like, you can actually beat an opponent with 1 counter if you get lucky enough. So basically, the whole point of this unit with this counter is, the lower he gets, the more damage the counter does. And Bond's actually really good for a lot of characters that do stances. The reason is because he could lower defense and then extort. Basically, he takes like half of their stats and then applies it to himself. So he basically steals their stats and, like I said, applies it to themselves. And then this move actually cancels stances. So that with the extort, and they're doing like stances for, let's say, Estarossa. You do a lot of, well, depending on if he has this debuff immunity. If he does, then you're not gonna do much damage. But let's say let's talk about green counter melee. If you were to put up if you were to put up stances and you ulted him and then you use the level 3, it would destroy his stance and possibly kill him, depending on how, well, like, what is your bronze level and what is his gear. The only counters, normal counters like this, cannot counter ultimates. It literally says over here, hold on, it says cannot counter ultimates for me. I don't know where it says that, but I'm sure it does say that. The bottom line is that normal counters in the game cannot counter ultimates. So let's say someone has a stance for, let's talk about Green Melly again. Let's say he put up a stance and someone does an ultimate. They will not get hurt by that stance because it will not trigger from that ultimate. But for Estarossa, if he does his ultimate counter stance, if anyone tries to attack, he will attack back. So therefore, if you use this stance before the enemy's turn and they attack, they don't do any damage to you, their attack gets cancelled, and then it goes back to your turn. So therefore, you can make sure or try to ult drain them, whatever you need to do to finish the job off, because then they will lose out on a turn. And the good thing about this Estarossa, if you don't have them, get them and put lifesteal food. I mean, I should put lifesteal food, but like I said, I'm still working on him, so it's gonna take some time. But put lifesteal food on him because his counter does damage based on his attack only, his attack stats only. It only does based on that percentage. It only does damage based on that percentage, not HP, not defense, not remaining HP, just attack. So if you put lifesteal, pretty much every counter that you get, whether it be 30,000, 40,000, you're getting all that HP back. So therefore, if you're trying to have a long drawn out battle with an opponent, this unit is especially good for Tower of Trials because he can do a lots of damage, like 100k, and heal that all back, which is really overpowered. Plus he's fun to use. So if you guys are new, it's actually very easy to get him. If you can't get him off a draw, which I don't think you can, you could always go down to Coin Shop and buy the units that you want. There's also discounted units every once in a while, but they're pretty much all discounted. But if they do go back to like 10, then always go for the limited time sale units, depending on which one you need. And yeah, and then Esterossa's right here is a Coin Shop unit. So if you don't have luck getting them, you can just get enough platinum coins just to get them. So it's not necessarily hard. You just need to be lucky with your summons, cause yeah, and he's really good. Like, he's actually really good. And I suggest, if you were to invest in anything, if you don't have Goddess Liz, try to invest in these 4 units that are up here: Green Escanor, Red Gother. If you already have Green Gother, don't worry about Red Gother. Just use Green Gother because he's better. But knowing my luck, I don't get really lucky. And then there's King and Estarossa. And last thing I'm gonna talk about is the Gother bosses that you might be facing. So I don't really have any gameplay because I don't think you're able to go back and replay it. But what I have to say is, I've Galland, and I'll show you what he does. So if you face a Gother like him, right here, that has a rank up skill, your main priority should be using Galland. The reason why I say Galland, and I don't know if it applies to Red Galland. I'll see right now. So does it apply to him? Okay, it does not. Wait, actually it does. So Galland's commandment. So you want to get Galland in the first spot against rank up heroes like Red Gother, as I showed you. So I'll show you the icon you need to look for. So if Gowther on the next turn is using this sort of like buff, like this blue watery thing up top in the right corner. If he's using that and you have blue Gallon, what he does is that he petrifies him for 2 turns, so they can't do anything. So you could either rank up, heal, do what you need to do, and they won't be able to attack. That Gowther does remove debuffs, so I suggest you attack, and every time he does that, he's going to get the ultimate off. I'm talking about Gallon, because Gowther, I seem to notice a pattern. Whenever he's about to do his ultimate, the turn before he does his ultimate, he ranks up his cards. He always ranks up his cards. So if you have Gallon, you're pretty much guaranteed to get petrified every single turn that Gowther uses. So pretty much on that like 5th ultimate gauge orb, you're guaranteed to get a petrify. So Gowther's pretty much not able to do anything against your team. Although he's a boss, he cannot do anything. He's literally powerless. He is powerless because he will not be able to beat this team if you use Gallon and whatever you use normally. Because Gowther is prohibited on those type of bosses, so you cannot use Gowther. This is Amplify, so what Amplify does is that it does damage based on the buff, which his ultimate does give him buffs. So, yeah. Plus, if you're new to the game, you'll be able to learn more as you play, just like I did. Well, that's all.